Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our program today is entitled Surfing Your Brainwaves. Brainwave states, one of the most fascinating parts of studying the human mind, and in fact, my entry point into this whole field. I was a little kid. I remember I was in first grade, and somebody said, "You're brainy," because I knew how to read real well, so they said, "You're brainy." So I went home and I said, "Mom, what's brainy mean?" And she said, like she always said, "Look it up. Sound it out and look it up." Those are the phrases I got all the time. So I looked up brainy, and somehow that led me to reading all these brain definitions, including the concept of brain waves. And then the next day, it was my Friday that Mom and I always go to the library. Every Friday, Mom and I always went to the library, and I checked out a book on brain waves, which led me to another book which really changed my life, which was called Self-Hypnotism by Leslie LeCrone, and it introduced me to the basic concept of these four different states. They called them delta, theta, alpha, and beta. They were sleep, that was delta, and like dreaming, that was theta. And then focused concentration on one thing was alpha, and then the stress states all the way up through panic and terror, they called that the beta brainwave state.
I think for most people it's surprising to consider that brainwaves were first discovered about 1908, and that as far back as the turn of that century, we had equipment that could measure the electromagnetic waves radiating from the brain, just like radio waves. That's what they are. It's RF, technically. It's not just magnetism, like you've got lead magnets in your brain. It's electrical in nature, electrochemical in nature, but like a radio, a very low power signal, radio signal, is broadcast by the brain, and this is what determines life. It used to be, can you fog a mirror? Can we detect a pulse? Now it's, do you have a brain wave? And if so, what's its frequency? See, that's what's important in setting up an electroencephalograph and, the so-called EEG that shows brain waves. It's the frequency of the brain waves. So as Steve explains these different states, let's first of all just look at them in a quantitative sense, like the numbers involved, and think in terms of, a piano keyboard. We're going to go up the scale, so to speak, each note being a little higher in frequency than the one below it. We have that same kind of continuum here with brainwaves.
So as we start with zero, which would be dead, anything above zero, below, say, a half a cycle per second, that would be the state we call comatose or coma. And from about a half a cycle per second up to 4 cycles per second, that's the state we call delta or deep sleep. Now, this deep sleep state is a real fascinating phenomena. I mean, nobody really knows why we sleep. I mean, scientists say really the only explanation they know for sure is that it's the only cure for sleepiness, which is a disease. If you stay up too long, you'll get sick, So we do need to sleep to cure sleepiness. But it's, I think, one of the most fascinating of all phenomena. If people came from another planet to explore Earth and looked at this and said, that's pretty weird. Like a third of the time, these people just conk out. But we do have reasons to sleep, and the two primary ones are to heal our bodies and to regulate brain chemistry.
There is another area to consider, too, and that's, we could call it the dream imperative. If you don't get enough dream time, you go psychotic pretty quickly within 2 days of not having dream time. You can go a long time without sleep if you just get a little bit of that theta brainwave, 4 to 7 cycles, some of that dream time in. But in experiments where people are robbed of dream time, doesn't matter how long they're allowed to sleep, they begin to hallucinate in their waking state. So strong, it seems, is the need to dream that some have suggested that may be one of the reasons we sleep. There certainly is no survival advantage, quite the contrary. So it must be, whatever the need, a strong one.
Yeah, probably, certainly during the dreams, and maybe even other times we're processing all the data of the day before and, dealing with lots and lots of stuff, healing our body, as I said, regulating brain chemistry. So the deep sleep state heals the body, and that lighter sleep state, the theta state, the dream state, I mean, we heal our emotions. We heal ourselves through dreams. We process all the information. We work out some anxieties and some fears. All kinds of stuff happen in that lighter theta brainwave state. And theta's kind of cool because it sort of goes between sleep and awake. There is a state where you're sort of dreaming, but you know that you're dreaming. You're conscious of the fact that you're dreaming. That's also included in the top level of this, the lighter part of this theta brainwave state. So delta is the deep sleep state, mostly healing the body, regulating chemistry. Theta is the dream state where we're sort of healing emotions and processing all kinds of information. And then it moves into this trance-like state in between awake and asleep where you can actually do some amazing things, where the Maharishis and the yogis and the gurus and the fakirs and the Zen masters all go to when they do all the amazing things they do. That also is part of that same awake and yet dreaming at the same time theta brainwave state.
Yeah, it's alert, but it's so focused. And we call it focused passion. You put the two together. But primarily, it's a state of intense concentration. Oddly, most people still think of concentration as an effort, something that you have to try to do, bring tension into. And actually, the opposite is true. Those who've studied concentration, paying attention, mental focus, find that it's a relaxation skill. And anyone who's had any real experience with athletics knows exactly what we're talking about here. It's relaxation that improves our performance physically, but also mentally, and our emotional sensitivity also. So we're going to have to learn, as many masters have said throughout the ages, to tune along this spectrum where we want to be, depending on our particular behavior. There may be times that we desire to be in any one of these levels, where it's in our interest to be in a very high stimulus, wide awake place, that beta, focused out into the world. There are times for sleeping, there are times for dreaming, but that alpha brainwave level, that, what do we say, 8 to 12 cycles right in there, that's the bullseye for most of our interest.
In fact, the state of interest brings us right into this alpha brainwave state. It's a state of focused concentration and amplified passionate interest that is available to us in this state of 7 to 14, zeroing in maybe 8 to 12 cycles per second on the electroencephalograph. Now, 0 to 4 is deep sleep, and 4 to 7 is that dream state or that trance-like state around 7. But at 7, we sort of transition to a sort of a conscious awakeness, but instead of being the wide-awake state you experience in beta, where you've got all kinds of things, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things going on at the same time, in alpha, the 7 to 14 or 8 to 12 range, it's just focused on one thing. It's all about just total concentration on one thing. And it's not asleep or sleepy, and it's not wide awake. It's a state, I like to call it narrow awake. It's total focused concentration. And in that state, you can bring the passion. Now, just like a radio, focused concentration, the alpha state, say around 8 or 10 cycles per second, is something you can tune in on a dial, like on the radio. But focused passion. Now, passion is the other knob on the radio. Passion is the volume knob on the radio. So you have to tune between sleep and awake, between beta and delta. There's this focused concentration place. And then you go there and then turn up the volume of your emotion, like get real interested, real passionate. Now you have the ultimate state, focused passion. Focus brings to bear the power of the conscious mind. Passion brings to bear the power of the subconscious mind. And the most fascinating thing happens when the two minds come together in this focused passion state. And that is, it gives us access to this amazing third mind, this higher consciousness, this breakthrough to a whole new you.
Yeah, there's an alignment that happens in this alpha brainwave state, and to some degree also in the theta brainwave state. It's as if through the relaxation and feeling of safety and ease that goes with a meditation exercise, and allowing yourself to fall asleep and then maybe floating just this side of unconsciousness. There are many techniques and skills, some of which we'll demonstrate for you in a few minutes, to attain this focus, this, Steve calls it narrow awake, which I think is a wonderful term. And again, focused passion, well, that's the name of our website. You could exchange those in a way. It's focused awake. Are you saying that wide awake is not focused? Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. Normal consciousness, people like to call it multitasking, but it's more than tasks that you're doing all at once. You've got 6, 8, 10, 12 thoughts that are competing for your attention at the same time. You're completely overstimulated. It creates a kind of a feedback loop with all these ideas getting just a fraction of your attention. But when you breathe and relax, and these brain waves begin to lower from high beta to low beta, and coming down finally, as you feel yourself letting it go, into the alpha brainwave level, that narrow focus, that narrow awake, that focused passion allows every idea, every sensation, every feeling, no matter how subtle, to get 100% of your attention. Think about it. Even if we acknowledge the benefits at times, when appropriate, of being in high beta and able to handle 15 things at once, you've got to be able to recognize the benefits of moving to the middle here and putting all your attention on one thing at a time.
Now, if you think about the beta brainwave state being the normal state, not the natural state, mind you. I mean, up until recently in human evolution, we didn't live in a multitasking universe, so we didn't live in that high-stress mode most of the time. It was once in a while when we were in actual danger. But now it's normal for a lot of people to live that way. Imagine every one of your thoughts and feelings. If you think any one of those could be dangerous and you sort of have to watch out for any negative thought or any negative feeling that pops up, imagine how you're looking at this thought and looking at that thought, and your eyes are darting back and forth like a wild animal in the woods, looking around for danger in any direction. That's the normal state. When you're worried that your thoughts and feelings could hurt you, and you have to pay attention to all of them, and you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them competing for your attention, you're actually only paying attention to any one at a time, but it's an instant here and a moment there and an instant there, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's like looking out in every possible direction for danger. That's the normal but not natural state that many people are in. So, beta starts with like simple divided attention, like you're talking on the telephone and trying to write an email at the same time. And it goes up through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things at the same time, and even up through panic, anxiety, confusion, and terror, and ultimately even nervous breakdown. I mean, nervous breakdown is just a complete overload of the circuits.
Yeah, panic attacks, they're called today, even more than nervous breakdown, same kind of a thing. It feels like you're losing it, like there's an enormous amount of danger all around you. You don't know what it is. You can't imagine. You've racked your brain trying to fit, and your mind has come up with all kinds of crazy possibilities, and it's none of those things, and yet you just can't seem to escape the feeling that something horrible is about to happen. And sometimes people feel a need to run, or I got to get out of here, or they have a problem breathing, and it can really catch you off guard at times. But usually what it's the result of is the accumulation of stress that's not being expressed and released somehow. And it's likely to happen when we spend too much time in beta, and high beta especially. When we breathe and relax, even if you don't do a formal meditation, you can learn in time, with just a little practice, to move all up and down this scale. It will, very easily and very effectively. And with a single breath and a feeling that you create in your body, you can move into the alpha brainwave level and see your problems with an overview that is revealing, a big picture, a larger concept instead of all the details. The feeling that you can't see the forest for the trees happens when you're overstimulated. But to take a breath and relax is to sort of zoom out a little bit and, oh, wait a minute, you're getting a bigger perspective. That's the first thing that begins to happen. Not only is it easier to understand the details, but now, with this added focus, You have the ability to see the bigger picture.
So as we step back and see the bigger picture of our brainwaves, we see that the deep sleep state, anything from 0 to 4 cycles per second, that delta brainwave state is a real important part of our lives. And if we're having trouble with that part of our lives, with sleep, then there's some nice things you can do. Fortunately, we've studied sleep for a long time now. We know a great deal about it, and we know that there's a few things that always make it easier to sleep. One is diet, one is exercise, and one is stress release. You don't want to eat pepperoni pizza before you go to bed at night. You don't want to watch the 11 o'clock news before you go to bed. You want to make sure you get some good strenuous aerobic exercise in each day to get your body in the ability to fall asleep more easily. But one of the most important things to understand about why people have trouble sleeping is it's a fear that if I don't get enough sleep, something bad's going to happen. And worried about falling asleep is the key to not falling asleep. If you realize I don't really need sleep right this moment in my life, if I needed sleep, it would take torture to keep me from being asleep. What I need now is rest. So I'm going to let my mind rest. If I fall asleep, that would be a wonderful bonus, but what I really need now is rest. And if you let yourself rest, the body will get what it actually needs and let go of whatever it is that's stopping you from falling asleep.
So we're trying to give you the sense that you can learn to your great benefit to run the elevator up and down the scale, to move your hand up and down the piano keyboard. You decide when you go to sleep. Cure for insomnia. You have the ability to move at will into delta. And so we decide which level of mind is appropriate for the outcome we want to create, for the particular task at hand. Now, the benefits of this in-between place, 10 cycles plus or minus a few, this alpha brainwave level, as a balance point between awake, wide awake anyway, and asleep, we call it narrow awake. This is paradise and finding yourself in paradise. The benefits of that, well, we've talked about two so far: concentration or focus, the complete power, 100% of your attention, and also the ability to see conceptually the whole enchilada, the big picture, the gestalt. But there are many more benefits that come with being here. Basic emotional management, learning to breathe through and release our anxiety, and practices that allow us to express ourselves creatively, turning a negative into a positive by letting it go. So often our emotional problems are made into problems by the fact that we hold on to them. We don't express them. We don't face them. We don't learn from them, understand them, and so they just become toxic in an ever greater problem. But in alpha, the focus of this narrow awake level, the alpha brainwave level, is such that you can be sensitive to that, address it, take care of it, and often head it off at the pass. Wouldn't it be nice to see your anger from a mile away and say to yourself, I don't think I want to go there this time. I think maybe I'll find another way to express these feelings, a more appropriate way, maybe a win-win solution. I'll remember that I'm not in opposition with the person that made me angry. We're really working on a team together. And you decide, you make a conscious decision to manage your feelings as they come to you, into you, through you. It's a brilliant concept. You don't hear many people talking about it because it'd be next to an impossible thing to do in so-called normal consciousness, that high beta level.
You see, when we're in that high beta level, we have to be wary of all kinds of different dangers. We can't focus on any one of them, so our mind's distracted and going all over the place. When we bring our mind down into a more relaxed alpha state, we focus on one thing, and that means we let go of everything else. See, that's the coolest thing. And the only way you can do that, the only way you can let go of everything else is if you feel safe. Because if you feel in danger, that's what's making you pay attention to all those other things that might be dangerous. You have to feel safe to let go of the need to look out at all those possible dangers, all those contingencies, all those possibilities. And, of course, the brain has one basic way of deciding whether it's safe or not safe, and it really sort of correlates with brainwave activity. The more relaxed you are, that is, when you move into the most relaxed state, deep sleep, your breathing is slow and deep and rhythmic. And when you move up into panic, your breathing is very, very fast, very shallow, and you end up, holding your breath and tightening up all your muscles. Well, that's the brain's cue. When the breathing is shallow or when you stop breathing, that's the brain's cue to be in danger. That's what we do. We hold on to breath. We tighten our bodies. We hold on to everything. So the cue for the brain to let go of that, the cue for the brain to release the tension, the anxiety, the confusion, the cue for the brain to feel safe is really moving down into that alpha state. And one of the great ways to do that is starting with the breath, starting with one really deep, purposeful, thinking about it while you're taking it, conscious, slow, deep breath. I'm taking a breath in now, I'm filling my lungs, I'm noticing how it's making my body feel energized, and now I'm holding it, and now I'm slowly releasing it out of my body. The words aren't important, but the paying attention to that process happening in your mind, that process happening in your body, that I'm taking a really deep breath here simply to let my brain know I can move out of beta now. I can start moving into alpha because I'm very safe.
And so we could call that a fourth area, a fourth benefit of focused passion in the alpha brainwave level. You're going to be healthier. You're going to heal faster. You'll even have the ability to manage your perception of pain and discomfort. It's quite remarkable what we can accomplish in these levels of mind. I think still another benefit, what are we up to, 5 so far, is the nature of intuitive awareness that, again, is just not available in normal consciousness when we're so overstimulated and focused out through our physical senses into the physical world. It's like you could have this great idea that's standing here on the verge of coming into your awareness, but it's getting ignored because you're so focused on the world out here. Relax, breathe, come into alpha, and suddenly bursting into your awareness is this intuitive realization, this epiphany, this inspiration that was standing there all along, just waiting for you to turn your attention in that direction. We're much more intuitive in the alpha brainwave level.
And along with that intuitiveness comes a heightened sensitivity, a heightened compassion, a heightened empathy, an ability to understand other people's emotions and other people's feelings as well. It's one of the wonderful benefits. But, of all the benefits, I think my favorite, the one that I'm always so excited about, is the ability to be smarter. I mean, to have access to your memory, to have access to your intelligence and your ingenuity and your insight and your critical thinking skills, and to not be confused and to not be distracted, to be able to focus your mind and really figure stuff out and make stuff up and invent things. Faster, smarter in the alpha brainwave state. Every kid in the world who's ever been stressed out at a test knows the higher the stress, the worse you do on the test. The more focused and confident you feel, the better you do on the test. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, living my life in that focused and confident mode where I know I have access to everything in my memory bank, and I almost never have a tip of the tongue kind of situation. When I do, I can grab it in an instant by simply going back to this alpha state. This added intelligence, this ability to use my critical thinking skills more effectively and to discern from that stream of consciousness that's going by all the time what's the good stuff, what's important, what I can really have an aha and experience and do something valuable with. I think the ability to monitor my thoughts and feelings and to choose which ones to empower and which ones to release inert, the wisdom to know the difference, I think that's one of the greatest things that happens in the alpha state. The more we move into beta, the more endangered we feel, the less we're able to do all these things because our brain says survival trumps self-improvement, survival trumps everything else. And when we're in beta, it's really all about survival. When we're in alpha, it's about growth, success, and fulfillment.
And finally, I think there's an automatic refinement of character, Steve, an unfoldment of the higher self that happens even if we don't intend it to. One of the reasons that successful people are able to handle self-confidence with grace is that they find out the benefits of being truly humble, and they put the ego on a leash where it should be. Ego has an important role to play, especially if your survival is at stake, but it doesn't get to run the show. It shouldn't be driving the car. It ought to be riding shotgun over here. So we go through stages of self-confidence where the self is refined. That's why you'll often hear people refer to the true self, or we talk about the higher self, or the self you find in paradise. It's a more highly evolved self in terms of values and ethics and morality. It's also non-authoritarian. It has no interest in dictating values to other people. So this is, I think, one reason that you see the practice of introspection, of deep relaxation, controlled breathing, progressive muscular relaxation, meditation, prayer. These practices have been kept alive by spiritually oriented people, religious or otherwise, for the purpose of knowing themselves that well enough to realize, I'm not my fear, I'm what I care about, I am my love.
And that's really how you can tell the difference between the higher self, the higher consciousness, and other voices and things that go on inside your mind. And that is that the voice of higher consciousness always comes through sounding like love. It's safe. It feels safe. It's not afraid of anything. The only thing actually it's afraid of is true, clear, and present danger, and it knows that the autopilot will kick in with fight or flight if that were to happen, so it really isn't afraid of anything. So if the voice inside you're listening to when you go into this alpha state, I mean, when you're in the beta state and you've got all these voices going on, maybe the higher self is one of those voices, but you wouldn't notice it. You wouldn't recognize it. There's so many other things that seem much more important at the moment. But when you close your eyes and take a deep breath and relax a little bit, that one voice comes through. And again, if it's got any fear in it, that's the wrong voice. Take another deep breath, go a little deeper, feel a little safer, and then ultimately you'll find a voice in there, the higher consciousness that feels safe, that doesn't have any fear, any doubt in it. It just knows what's right for you to do, and it sounds like love, and it just feels right. It's that aha voice. It's that this is the right voice, the one that it's always talking about what's best for you, and not what you should do or can't do. It's really easy to recognize once you are paying attention and looking for it, because again, most of the voices that are going on inside of our minds have lots of fear in it, but the one that doesn't, the one that feels safe, that's a very special voice. That's the higher self.
And so it's time for us to practice what we preach. We're going to show you how to move into the alpha brainwave state of focused passion, of narrow awake. We're going to use guided imagery, sometimes called visualization, but we'll awaken all of your sensory imagination and help you find the focus and a sense of receptivity to insight, to understanding, for real problem solving. If you did nothing but come to this place and wonder why, you'd experience some extraordinary benefits. But of course, this series, Finding Yourself in Paradise, is offering scores of applications week after week after week. Every one of these programs, as you've no doubt discovered by now, has one of these guided imagery exercises, guided narratives here. And so we're showing you all the different ways that you can apply these levels of mind. I need to remind you that even 60 seconds is a meditation. One slow, deep breath changes the way you think. So if there's a program in your head that is trying to convince you that you don't have time to shift gears, to decide where on that brainwave spectrum you are, you need to let that thought go and remind yourself of the benefits that you've learned here today and that you already know from your life when you're cool and calm and collected. It's a kind of a folk axiom that people know and understand. But the question is, how do we do that when we really need to do that and aren't sure how to do that? Well, there's a couple of steps, and it starts with the breath.
Yes, one slow, deep breath changes you. And a second slow, deep breath lets the mind know the first one wasn't just a fluke. So it knows this is the way we're going now. So just a couple of slow, deep breaths really is enough to get the mind going. But what we're talking about here is that gives the mind an opportunity to feel safe. It's breathing deeply now. It can feel safe, but it needs a place to go to be safe. And so we call that place paradise. It's a journey within to your imagination, to your memory, to your fantasy. It's creating in your mind a place that you can go back to time and time again that brings you love and joy and safety. It's paradise. It could be a place you've actually visited before with some modifications. It could be a place you've always dreamed of going. It could be a place you've never even thought of before you do this exercise. But it's pretty remarkable what the mind can invent. And what I've discovered works really, really well is to just let intuition take over. Just ask yourself, what would make me feel safe? What would be my paradise place? And then just with the next deep breath, allow yourself to just tune in to whatever place that may be. So let's do it. Take that one slow, conscious deep breath, followed by another. And as you release, time to find paradise in this place of perfect peace.
Trust your first impression and whatever your imagination reveals. Allow yourself to move in the direction of remembering how it feels to enjoy peace and safety at the same time. There have been times in your life where you felt so safe and relaxed that you dropped your guard and lowered your defenses because there was nothing to guard against, nothing to defend yourself from. You allow yourself to feel that way now, whether you're in that secret hiding place from your youth that the adults never knew about. You could be in your favorite easy chair at home or on a paradise island that's entirely from your imagination, high in a mountain or deep in a valley. But feel connected to the environment around you. Allowing our voices to guide you, listen for the sounds of this place. Are there birds singing?
And while part of your mind knows this is your imagination in charge, that part of your mind, by and large, is stepping aside, and the part that's focusing in will believe in this vision as you begin. And so part of you feels like you're really there, and you can smell the fragrances in the air, and you can feel the gentle breeze across your face, and it feels like you're really in this place. Imagine it's true. Imagine you're there. Imagine with your mind. It could be anywhere, but wherever it is, pretend it's true. Make this paradise place a real paradise for you.
And if it hasn't occurred to you as yet, or if you're aware of yourself feeling still a little floaty, imagine yourself rooted into the earth, sitting upon the ground. Oh, you could be on a big rock outcropping or a log or a tree stump if you don't want to sit in the dirt, but nevertheless you feel the earth and imagine yourself connected to the earth, almost as if, like a tree or a bush, you have roots of your own that ground you. In terms of electricity, you feel grounded into the earth. Feel the stability and reliability of sitting upon the earth, feeling connected, feeling plugged in. Imagine you're plugged in at the other end, too, like a battery. The top of your head, for example, connected to the sky somehow. You could just imagine a gentle rain, a precipitation of wisdom and love, harmony and understanding, sprinkling down upon you from above. And you, as a medium, as a conduit, as a receptive vessel, receive on the vertical the life force, the chi, the ki, the elan, the Holy Spirit that is life itself, animating you and illuminating you, and radiate that out into the world in which you're grounded. Feel yourself connected to sky and earth, to spirit and matter, at the balance point in between the two. A conscious awareness that determines what to do with this energy you're receiving, what to make with it, what shape to put it in as you release it out into the world, building new forms, new ways of thinking, new ways of being and relating to each other, and refining forms, thought forms and emotional forms, ways of behaving that are already here. With your imagination, your intuition, the receptivity and connectedness of this level of mind.
And in this focused passion space, you have the answers to the two basic problems you face. In this state, in either case, you can find solutions that are right for you. If you know what you want, but you don't know how to get it, this is the state you can use. But if you don't know at all what you want, if your mind is feeling confused, then this state too can help you hear. One deep breath and things get clear, and you can ask yourself, what do I want the most? And just be there. Just allow yourself to be the host. Be receptive and be clear, and let the answer come from in here. So in this state, you can stand above thoughts and feelings as they go by, and you can release the negative and embrace the positive and never even have to try. And in this state, you can be smarter and manage your emotions with grace. And in this wonderful, beautiful paradise alpha place, you can enhance your memory, see the bigger picture too, enhance your healing ability. There's so many things you can do. And it all begins when you get clear with one deep breath and release your fear and come with your consciousness to this paradise place right here.
And now, just before we bring you back to the wide awake state, I'd like to suggest to you that the universe has a message for you, a positive, life-affirming, inspirational message that you'll hear, if you trust your very first impression, as I pause. Listen now for the words of encouragement meant for you. Repeat it to yourself silently and internally so it'll be easy to remember. Repeat it silently and internally several more times to see how it fits, how it feels, to begin to incorporate this affirmation. And telling yourself this will be easy to remember, and understanding why it's important that you remember it, review it, and repeat it. Take a nice, slow, deep breath now, pulling in strength and power. Hold as you peak, sense the fullness, and now exhale slowly and open your eyes, wide awake, alert, rested, refreshed, all rejuvenated and recharged, feeling fine.
You know, that exercise of letting your mind come up with the words from the universe of encouragement that you need to hear right now kind of thing. I've done that exercise for so many years, but I just had a new one pop into my mind when you just did that. It was so cool. It was, I am deserving of life's extra serving. It just popped into my mind. I am deserving of life's extra serving. So it's amazing the kind of creativity that you can access in this alpha brainwave state, and it's a matter of consciously choosing to get out of stress. You know, you always have the moment or two it takes to get to alpha. You may not have the hour to go down and do a deep trance meditation, but you can always find the 10 or 20 seconds. You know, and you don't even have to get out your BlackBerry and schedule it in. 10 or 20 seconds, a couple of deep breaths, and just let your mind either ask the question of what do I want, or if you already know that, start imagining yourself having what you want, as if you've already got it over and over again with great passion. Visualize it, imagine it, and boy, you can really enhance your power to make your dreams come true.
Remember to forward these programs to your friends. We encourage that. We've deliberately decided not to copyright, at least in this format, these programs. So you're encouraged to pay it forward. Use the gadget at focusedpassion.com to send these programs as often as you want to as many people as you want, and let them find out some of what you're learning about this level of mind, this focused passion state that you can get into on demand for all the benefits we've talked about and then some, and just how easy it is. And week after week, as you add to your collection and share with your friends these programs, you'll find more and more applications, more skills, and more reasons to be able to use all the levels of your mind, not just wide awake and sound asleep, but all these in-between levels that are getting wasted. You know, we all get glimpses of these levels of mind. Everybody has the experience of the top of their head lifting up, and suddenly they get this great idea, or they suddenly remember something, or all of a sudden they understand this great blinding epiphany comes to them. Well, why wait for that to happen spontaneously if with a single deep breath and a feeling of letting go, you can move there elegantly on demand? I say spread the news, get the good word out.
Absolutely. You don't have to wait for great ideas. You can go and get them. So we hope you enjoyed this Delta, Theta, Alpha, Beta data. We've been talking about the brain and brainwave states. And yeah, it's important to sleep well, and it's important to be able to move into that high stress mode when there is high stress, where there's real danger. But, you know, most of the danger is not real. Most of what we experience as danger is just confusion. And with one slow, deep breath and visualizing and imagining yourself in your paradise place, all that imaginary danger goes away.
So we'll have another episode of Finding Yourself in Paradise for you in 1 week. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for your interest in personal and spiritual development. And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.